Right. Lovely having you back for the probably very, very important session for our property investors. Investor protection and security. I think that's one of the key things when any investor looks at making a property investment. I always call it addressing the property investment fears, which is an interesting topic, because we shouldn't fear, but rather make sure that you protect yourself by doing your homework properly. Great thing about this is we do a lot of those for you already, and some of the security that we're going to touch on is the following. One, you'll either take transfer of that property. Two, have a covering bond as security, or thirdly, a recordal over the title in favor of you as the investor. Then we also secure and have established financial and governance procedures, which make sure that everything runs through a specific legal and financial process, and that it's within the governance of the laws, those type of things. All funds that you will be paying through the time period will all be paid to the attorney's trust account and will be covered by a Fidelity Fund insurance. But even if I always say, I know all attorneys are very trustworthy, but if they're on their way, your money is protected in the process as well. Maximum exposure to market value, as we discussed, 75% of market value, which includes all costs, which means it actually builds in a buffer of 25% for you as security. Then the property owner and transaction due diligence is done, not only on the property, but as well as the property owner, and that is very important. There's a difference between doing a due diligence on a property owner and the due diligence on the property itself. All transactions are audited on completion, which is very important, so that we can show you the actual returns that you have done in this specific or every specific transaction that you are involved in. Then solution and investment committee, that means all the professionals. And if you look at the different types of people, property specialists, maintenance specialists, compliance specialists, and we're talking about juristic, which is the attorneys, the CAs, the financial guys looking at the recoverability and all those type of things, are all part of that team which makes the decision about any property beforehand. And if we don't have consensus, that is the ethos of how we do those decision makings, as well as your investment specialist, property investment specialist. And if we don't agree to those transactions, it will not proceed. A very important part here for making that decisions is the fact that Property Assist only will earn additional returns with you, as we call performance profits. Okay, so in that case, it also helps you, because we look at every transaction if it's our own. So if you don't make a profit, we actually have to write off our profit first before we touch your profit. And in that case, we like to make some good returns to be there for you for always, but then we have to make the right decision. Insurance coverage, obviously, any party something can go wrong in the process, so we need life insurance and insurance coverage on the property itself. So that is important to protect you as the investor as well. Then, if we look at what do we do in a property due diligence, because that determines actually how do we do our research. And we have got what we call a 100-point metric system. I can't obviously go through that now, but I will touch on some of that. So we start with maintenance. On the actual property due diligence, we look at the structural property inspection, compliance certificates, quotations upfront prior to getting involved on putting in offers, reaching agreements, maintenance quotations upfront, as we previously discussed, plan scrutiny, every plan compared to what is the existing, and if it's not in line, we do budget for that amount to be fixed up and sorted, that the plan will be as reflected what is as built on the site. Security of the property itself, and then we look at the property assessment side. We look at what is actual sales in the suburb, comparable properties for sale, because if we have to list that property today, we are going to compete with what's available. And a lot of people don't look at that even. Area specialist assessments, registered assessments by one of the only ISO registered valuers in the country, and then obviously a comprehensive property report that we do that includes things like the country, the suburb, all those type of things. Then on the juristic side, basically we have two sides to that. The one is the legal and owners research, looking at the FICA, the owners related legal risks, you know, what is he involved in many companies, what situation is there, company research if he is involved in many companies, solution governance, looking at that governance that is within the laws of the country and the contract that is drawn up is within those laws. Rights clearance certificate, we actually ask the rights clearance certificates up front so that we don't have just working on the last period of time's quote or outstanding account, because it's not always correct. There can be two accounts on it or whatever the case may be, and we want to avoid those type of misjudgments. Then property and title research, very important. You don't know, if you don't scrutinize the title deed, there may be restrictions on the title deeds, endorsements or whatever that might be. And we need to look at that because that will be a risk for the property investor in the process. Look at additional properties owned by that same client. What are they? Are they in default? Are they working, currently being paid up to date? All those type of things. Then the financial side, especially when it comes to recoveries, we know, as we have previously discussed, the very, very important part here is we look at the owner financial research. Credit report, existing mortgage details, affordability assessment, really making sure that the affordability is there to recover. Creditors assessments, final risk assessments, what is going to happen if we pay and settle those debts, financial exit assessments, because every transaction you need to look at your exit. Otherwise, there's too much risk if you don't have an exit plan on a property investment. Then also your investment risk research, which is the feasibility on that transaction, is where more the property investment advisors are looking at it. Research, the security, the return on investment relating to risk, as well as a plan to exit. And what is the primary plan to exit and how soon will it be and is it achievable? Thank you, please put your questions online so that we can address them if you have any additional questions on security for the property investor. Thank you very much.